Hey, all you happy, peppy people out there, of which I am probably not one. Dude, I've been like running around this morning trying to get things finalized for the stream because I didn't have any time. Well, I didn't have much time last night. I would have had more time, but I'd only gotten 2 hours of sleep the night before, so I was just gone. And then I got up early this morning, and I thought, well, I got extra time. That one thing I was going to do that I decided to drop, let's do it anyways. Let's make it happen. Should have gone with my instincts on that one. But, hey, everybody, welcome to the stream. Hello, Lady Wendelin. I see you. I see you. I see you. No, you're not mad at him. She gets that reference if nobody else does. Yeah, so what do we got going on? Today in the den, we're going to talk about a little news. We're going to start a retrospective of live-action superhero costumes on film. We're going to start in the black and white era. Then we'll move to like the early color era. Then we'll probably do something like the 80s and 90s, and then we'll do like the 21st century. And we're going to be looking at it from the perspective of how accurate were they getting to the comic books or what have you at the time. Doing a good job, doing a bad job, etc. We're going to look at some new comic book pickups that I got. Nothing earth-shattering. And that's how you sell a stream, by the way. It's nothing earth-shattering. Just leave. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But we are going to look also at the newly delivered Super 7 Micronauts Wave. Showed up yesterday. Very cool. And then we'll also probably just chat about whatever if folks are in the chat and feeling chatty. Oh, and we'll look at coming attractions. So let's get this started. First, I wanted to start with a couple, unfortunately, sad notes. But one, hopefully, that, will turn out good. Adam Hughes, famed comic artist, pinup artist, he's one of the great pinup artists when you get right down to it. Diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer, announced by his family. He's had the initial operation. It was successful. It's going into chemotherapy. This is a tough one, but it is beatable, and he's determined to beat it, and I hope he does. So prayers out to Adam Hughes and his family and everything they're going through. Man, but hopefully it'll turn out okay for them. Hey, there's Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast. How's it going, sir? I'm pointing to where the chat is on my screen, because apparently I think that's where you're standing too. So how's it going? Oh, what do we say? Well, I've got too much time on my hands and it's ticking. I know that one. Yeah. I wish I had too much time on my hands this morning. I set up all this stuff. I'm like, good, cool. I wanted to get the stream set up at 8 a.m. So it's kind of floating on YouTube for a couple hours. I'm not going to make 8 a.m. Okay, 9. I can do 9. I can get 9. I'm working. No, it's not going to be 9. 9:30. Okay, I get back here a little bit before 9:30. I start setting it up. Oh, wait a minute. Something's not sized right. Okay, let me look. Okay, and this one is, okay, shoot. Run back out to my computer, fix a couple things. Run back here. Get the files I need. Load them up. Oh, something else is not sized right. Run back out there. Now I do a full review of all the slides, and it's like, oh, shoot, those are screwed up, and that one's not sized properly. Do all that stuff, get back here with about maybe 12 minutes before 10. So I wish I had more time this morning, but I brought it on myself. So prayers go out to Adam Hughes. Also another sad note, especially for some of us Gen X weirdos, Sid Croft, brother of Marty, of the Croft brothers, passed away last week. And dude, I grew up on HR Puffin stuff. I know for a lot of folks it was Lidsville or the Bugaloos or Sigmund and the Sea Monster. Of course, they did Land of the Lost, which is actually a really, really good sci-fi kids show. Bigfoot and Wild Boy. I'm pretty sure they were the ones who did Bigfoot and Wild Boy. It's one of the great. Yeah, they did, because it was on with the Croft Power Hour or whatever the hell they called it. But those guys, look, I know there's people out there who'd be like, that's not really my style of things. It's a little too weird for me. It's kind of 60s, kind of hippie. But the amount of creativity they put into stuff on numerous shows is really pretty impressive. And had some great characters that showed up. Charles Nelson Riley, the lady, oh God, I can't think of her name, who played Witchy Poo, did a couple other things. They did some amazing stuff. Oh, they brought the Bay City Rollers, out to the wider American public, which one of my wife's favorite bands from back in the day. So she owes them for that. So God bless Sid and Marty. I believe passed away earlier, a few years ago. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but God bless them both. Some amazing creativity. I mean, I think they were among the things that helped warp my generation. We were watching a lot of psychedelia as kids. No idea necessarily, I suppose in some families maybe, but in most of families, no idea about psychedelic drugs or any of that stuff. It was just what things looked like. Weird shapes, weird colors, weird people. And I don't know, maybe it helped give us a more laid back sort of attitude. My wife would not say I had a laid back attitude this morning, watching me run back and forth doing things, but maybe a more laid back attitude towards other people. Like, hey, everybody's kind of a freak. Do your own thing. Let your freak flag fly. Just keep your stuff out of my way. I'll keep my stuff out of your way, and we're good. Seems like some of the older and younger generations, a little bit more. No, I think everybody needs to do things my way. So we're kind of an oddball set. We got some, jerks in our generation too, believe me. But anyway, what else we got? Man of War here locally. Sigmund was my introduction. Yeah, okay. Marty did pass away. I was pretty sure he had. Sigmund and Sea Monsters is amazing too. Because is that Billy Barty in the costume? Or is it not? I can't remember now. I can't remember who was in the costume. The bad guys on that one, I guess, were the other sea monsters. They had some amazing people, though. And Butch Patrick was in one of those shows. He was in Lidsville. Charles Nelson Riley was Lidsville. I'm not sure about Bugalows. Or Bugaloos. They had the... what was it? I just had a brain fart. Damn. I was thinking of another. The dude who played Mr. Shrinker. Yeah, they hired some interesting people. They hired some interesting folks. They had the what was the Wonderbug? One of those guys, the black dude on that show. Because I was reading up their bios one day, watching them. He went into adult films. It's just a weird nexus, man, from the 60s and 70s and stuff. But Billy was in the suit. Someone else did the voice, yeah. So 2023. Wow, so only just a few years ago. I mean, you got to look at two brothers working together like that. I mean, one going, that could really hurt the other one. Just kind of, just like with married couples sometimes. If they've been together long enough and one goes, the other one's like, okay, I'm done. And kind of goes downhill quick. It can happen. Anyhow, but God bless Sid Croft. Rest in peace and Godspeed. All right, just to get a little bit of ranting in, it's good for heart health, gets the blood pumping, get the anger up a little bit. But not really anger, more like, just like, what are you people freaking doing? Disney CEO Josh D'Amaro confirming the majority of the visual effects in Avengers Doomsday will be AI powered. Now, this is kind of combined with their layoffs, which hit that unit like really friggin' hard. A lot of veteran people going out. Now, I know some of the product lately was not necessarily awesome, but also I know that their deadlines are stupid. They change their mind on how things are supposed to look about every 5 minutes. I get it, working in the kind of position I do where sometimes you're not working at your best and it's not really your fault because of the pressures you're getting from above. But what got me about this is this quote from him. This is a necessary step. He's talking about AI for special effects and things, or AI powered, as they like to put it. This is a necessary step. Audiences must accept it. Now, if the Disney CEO should have learned anything in the last 5 or so years, It is that audiences don't have to accept anything. They don't have to fork over a single dime, a single dollar to watch anything you make. You guys have watched IPs like Star Wars, like Marvel, their involvement in Doctor Who, kind of crash and burn in terms of audience. They don't have to accept what you do. Now, you guys think you need to do it to save money, but I'm not sure that's the case, because of the amount of money you spend on stuff. You got folks making the, Godzilla -1 movie for nothing practically. And they're using probably some practical effects, and then they're using the CGI where it makes sense. They're folks who know how to control a budget. Dude, the CGI is not your problem. The problem is not CGI, it is CEO. It's the person in charge and the people they put in charge. These executives can't friggin' figure out how budgeting works. They get too involved in productions and slow them down and make constant reshoots necessary. That's why all your budgets are exploding. It's not the CGI people's fault. And AI is not going to change that unless you AI power your executives. So when the executive makes a whole page of new notes, and this is an executive who has no business doing so, the AI quietly deletes all those notes and doesn't send them on to the production part. That would save you probably some money. You need to replace executives, not your friggin' graphics people. I mean, I know there's always a certain amount of streamlining that happens in things, but give me a friggin' break. And no, audiences do not have to accept it. They have proven that. Do you understand how a free market system works? Dude, even in like a non-free market, people don't have to accept things. There's an amazing amount of resistance, sometimes quiet, in those systems that makes them fall apart because people just ain't playing. They don't want to do it. You've got to give the customer something they want. That's what it comes down to. So a company that needs to turn around, this is one of the first statements I hear from their CEO. That's not a good sign at all. Now, if that quote is taken out of context somewhat, I'm doing an Emily Latella. Never mind. Sorry. But that's kind of the way I took it. And given the sort of arrogance that Disney has shown from the executive side over the last decade or so, that's kind of why I'm interpreting it the way I am. This is a necessary step. Audiences must accept it. He didn't have to say that last part, by the way. He could have just said, this is a necessary step as technology moves forward and we look to bring greater efficiencies, and economies of scale to what we do so we can provide a product that our audiences are going to love. That's how you say it. It's, a lot of BS, but that's how you do it. Audiences must accept it. No, my friend. Audiences don't have to accept it. And this is a movie, this doomsday, thing. Around $400 million budget, $300 million for marketing. So they're spending $700 million on this sucker, right? And remember, they only get half the ticket sales, more or less, from the theaters. So to break even, $1.4 billion to break even in an IP that people have more or less largely kind of given up on. Yeah, they came to Deadpool, and that's what they're aiming for. We're going to have tons of cameos in this thing, just like in Deadpool, and that'll get everybody in. And they apparently don't care if they make money on the thing. They just want to get people in to look at it. But if you get people in to look at it and they go, oh yeah, this still sucks, they're not coming back for the next one. And then you just spend a lot of money for no profit, for no freaking reason. It better be good. And from some of the stuff I'm hearing, I won't say good as in, quality necessarily, but I don't know if it's going to be a crowd pleaser, this movie. I got a lot of questions about that. I don't know, man. It's the folks in charge. They gotta friggin' do better. Manowar says, truth be told, the rot flows from the top down today. It does. The amount of institutional knowledge from producer, writer, and director that has been driven off reflects current output, and it does. You've driven a lot of people out. I mean, that can happen in the best of times. As one tranche of people who just maybe happen to have a lot of talent as they retire, move on to other things, The new one that comes in, they may be professional, but they may not have quite the creativity or the talent as the last group of people. But if they're professionals, they can keep things going, and then a few, really talented people kind of show up, and things will get rolling again. And what strikes me with a lot of this stuff is the lack of professionalism, definitely on the executive side. You're just kind of going, I don't think you people know what you're doing at all. I don't get that impression. Now, I won't necessarily say that on the creative side. Some of the choices I think are odd, but I don't know. I don't know about that side of it. But definitely from the side of the folks making calls and the big corporations, it seems real friggin' broken. And it seems like there's a lot of actors and directors who are like, yeah, I'm done. I can't work with these friggin' people anymore. And maybe they're looking at crowdfunding. Maybe they're looking at just more indie stuff, smaller projects, so they can feel satisfied at the end of it. Because I don't think anybody feels satisfied at the end of one of these Disney productions, other than the executives who are just probably patting themselves on the back for the amazing work they've done. And then the thing bombs and they go, well, you know what? Let's not worry about that. Let's move on to the next project. As long as I don't get fired, we're good. Crazy. Lady Windleman says, I don't think Disney will ever have anyone smart in charge again. And it kind of feels that way. It feels to me like what needs to happen to Disney would be a hostile takeover. So an outside entity comes in and says, you're all fired. No discussion. You're all fired. You're out of here. And puts a whole new crop of people in that hopefully would be better. But I think the way this is sort of a succession from Iger, and he probably still has a lot of influence. Iger's the problem. Iger is the problem in Disney. No solution there, then there's no solution for the problem, in my opinion. And him stepping down, I don't know. I think he probably still has a lot of control over things and can do what he wants or can influence things. I mean, unless the new guy turns out to be like a real ass kicker and just kicks Iger to the curb. But I kind of doubt it. And this statement that he made, to me, doesn't suggest that he's going to be probably any better or knows any more what he's doing. It's like every other profession. There are talented, garbage men, and there are garbage men who are shit at their jobs. And then there's a big tranche that are probably just mediocre. They get it done. And when I say talented at their jobs, I don't know if they still do this, but they used to do a sort of like Olympic Games for sanitation. Honest to God, testing people on things. There are people who excel at that job. And you maybe have seen it yourself. If you're out as a kid, maybe you're playing in the yard and you'd see some of these dudes like swinging the friggin', garbage cans over and just like super fast, and it goes right back where, and you're like, man, that dude's good at that. That's crazy. But it's like that in every kind of profession. Executives, there's going to be a ton of them who are just mediocre. They're not necessarily hurting, but they're not helping. They just push this stuff through. And then there's some folks who are really crap at their jobs. And here's the weird thing. The ones who are really crap at their jobs often are the ones who get promoted. Because the folks who are just getting their jobs done or who are good at their jobs, they don't want to take them out of those positions. Right? So it's the Peter principle. And I think Disney is now like the poster boy for the Peter principle in business, because I just don't think they have. I think they've probably driven everybody with talent, not just creatively at this point, but in terms of executive talent. Maybe they pushed all those people out into better places, and they just got a crop of people who don't seem to know what they're doing. Hey, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I'm not saying these are bad people necessarily. I don't know them personally, but they seem to make executive decisions that don't make sense and are definitely not helping Disney in terms of its movies. I think the parks are still doing okay. I think the cruise line is doing okay, but the movie side and the money they invested in Star Wars and in Marvel, that movie side needs to be kicking butt. It needs to be kicking butt. It really does. And it's not. Again, you could argue back and forth about it should be political. It shouldn't be political. I like this script. I hate it. Whatever. How much money did it make? From a business standpoint, how much money did it make? Well, this one wasn't profitable. That's a failure. And the people responsible for that failure just lost their jobs. You got to move on. We got to put somebody else in. It's like pro football, right? You know, if the quarterback you recruited, spent a lot of money on, isn't getting things done, then after a few weeks, he's sitting on the bench and somebody else is coming in. You got to perform. You've got to perform. And it never seems like we're hearing about mass firings or even small firings of key people in executive positions in Disney. It just seems like you screwed up. Well, let's move to the next project and screw that one up too. And let's move to the next project and screw that one up too. Like, this is how you build a business. You knock the people out who aren't getting it done. You bring in better people, try stuff out. Sometimes people do good for a while, then things fall apart. That's what you do. It's normal. It's not crazy. It's just business. Doesn't seem like that happens. I don't know. Maybe it does. I'm not privy to everything, but you hear enough news stories. You know, we're hearing about these layoffs. Are we hearing about layoffs of a lot of people in executive positions? There probably are some as they streamlined, but are we hearing specifically like, hey, the dudes who were responsible for the Eternals and for this, yeah, they're gone. They're gone. Then you go, okay, they're recognizing the problem and they're trying to adjust. I don't know. We'll see. Manowar says, we did the same thing for water and sewer repair. Pipe taping teams, national and international competitions. These are skills, man. And like all skills, some people just get crazy good at this stuff. Crazy good. And all of them are going to be better at it than an average person just from repetition. But then you get these people that are like freaking artists with this stuff. It's amazing. That's kind of what the Academy Awards used to be about for probably about 2 or 3 years. And then it became something else. Manowar also says, friend of mine has worked as set painter since the Stargate movie. The best impression I get from him is keep showing up, bail out the incompetence, keep your mouth shut, stay employed. Yeah, that's how it works in every industry. That's how it works. But that's where you need to have good executives who are picking up the signals, you know, and going, okay, here's the common factor in all these problems. That person needs to get out of here. That's what a talented executive does. Management, just like everything else, is a skill. And some people are good at it and some people aren't. I just don't think they have talented managers at this point. I won't opine on why. The other thing I saw that was kind of a bad idea, I think, Camila Mendez, who's playing Tila in the Masters of the Universe movie, says the film has a big focus on toxic masculinity. So again, how do you define that? What does that actually mean? This might be nothing, but that is a signal that a lot of people are going to get to say, stay away from this movie. Whether it's a fair signal or not, it's a signal. Are you not working with these folks and saying, don't use these key phrases? If you're working on a male-oriented action movie, don't say these things. It's not going to go well with the audience, right? I don't know. Again, I don't know. What I do know is I've been somewhat underwhelmed by the Masters of the Universe trailers. They're okay, but they didn't like... But I saw that Street Fighter one, and I'm like, dude, I think I'm going to go watch this in the theater. It looked fun. That looked like a genuinely fun movie. And I have very little involvement with Street Fighter as a franchise. I can remember playing the arcade game a little bit, kind of like what I was saying with Mortal Kombat. I play it, but I didn't want to learn all the combinations. It was, and I'll admit, I almost always played as Chun-Li because that way I got to see Chun-Li on the screen, whether I was winning or losing. So it felt like a win at some point. But I played it just a little bit. I remember seeing the anime way back when, because a dude I worked with had made a translation. So I watched that and it was pretty good. I liked it, but I'm not like a super fan by any means, or even probably a fan of Street Fighter, if you want to be honest. I know it exists. It's cool. Awesome. That looked like a great trailer. Made it look like a great movie. So we'll see, man. We will see. I thought the Mortal Kombat 2 trailer looked pretty cool too. Yeah, I think it looked pretty good. But I have to admit, if I was comparing it with the Street Fighter one looks more up my alley. It's a little goofier. It looks like the kind of thing where they're leaning into the stuff that's kind of that goofy that we all laugh about our franchises, but also taking it seriously at the same time, and trying to make it a real thing. It's a fine line to be able to do that, because you don't want to turn it into parody. But at the same time, there's like that line in the trailer. What was it? Cammy saying to Chun-Li, they're always talking about your thighs. Well, okay, that's like meta, because people have talked about those, thick thighs that save lives. You do stuff like that, and I think that brings the audience in. Like, we're part of the inside joke. If you do it as parody, then you just make your audience potentially angry. So that kind of stuff I really like. But I think both of them look like they could be, big movies in terms of pulling in a male audience, and but also just an audience who likes fun, just wants a fun action movie with a bunch of crazy stuff in it. So yeah, I mean, I might go see that one in the theaters too. And if you'd asked me that like a year ago, are you going to go see Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter in the theaters? I'd be like, probably not. I don't think I probably would. But man, it looks like they did the job. And hey, if I had a whole bunch of cool, Marvel or DC movies, that might crowd it out for me, because I don't have time to go to the, movies all the time, every weekend. That might be a problem. Well, what else am I going to go see? I mean, I thought about Masters of the Universe, but it's kind of like happening with the James Gunn Superman. I wasn't mega excited about that anyways, but I'm like, I might go check it out, give it a try. And then it seemed like, every week or two, there's something being said or something that's making me go, I don't know. And finally, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go bother seeing it. I didn't. And I'm almost feeling that way with Masters right now, of like, they look pretty good. And what? Oh, then there's, what about, I don't know. It's not quite as bad as the Superman one, but I had planned probably this year on going and seeing it. Again, because some of it looked like it was going to be fun. I just want a fun action movie. So we'll see. I think with Masters, I might wait a week and see what people are saying about it. And then maybe make a decision then. The other two, I would feel more confident like going opening night. I probably won't, but I feel a little more confident that I think they look like something I would like just from the get-go, and I don't feel any real reservations about it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see. What else do we got going on over here? Did you know more Kombat? No, I don't. I've never read any of the comic books of those. Again, I just didn't. I didn't grow up with those franchises. I mean, these are things that kind of popped up when I was in college, right around there. And I really wasn't playing a ton of, video games at that point either. So Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat don't really have a deep cultural, resonance for me. They're a little after my time. So I've never felt the need to like pick up a comic book or anything like that. I just, played the games a few times here and there. They're kind of fun, but I think if they hit you at a younger age, then it's like a big deal. Like me and Man of War talking about the Croft brothers, you need to be a kid when you see the Croft stuff, and then it has a big impact on you. You watch it when you're an adult, you just be like, what the hell is going on here? Did somebody slip me acid? What am I watching? I'm going to check them out, I think, though. Manowar says, played a ton of Street Fighter 2 in arcade and Super NES. Personally, never thought there was enough there to support a verse. Mortal Kombat as well. Yeah, and I don't know if it'll... I would agree. I don't know that you need to do that. I mean, I suppose they have with ancillary materials, with cartoons and all that kind of thing. I think movie-wise, just deliver a good flick. Good action scenes. Get some funny stuff in there. Have some pretty people running around. Have a plot that makes general sense. Doesn't need to be complicated, but avoid major plot holes. Don't try too hard, and you'll probably have a hit. It's like, dude, every movie does not need to be freaking Citizen Kane. Citizen Kane is great, but there are a lot of B movies. There's a lot of Charlie Chan films, Boston Blackie, Blondie movies back in the day too, because sometimes people just want to go to a theater and watch a story, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to overdo everything. And I think from the Marvel Star Wars side, and a lot of these things, everything's got to be overdone. And I think part of that is because the people working on them maybe aren't confident in their talents. And so they try to turn everything into spectacle, which sort of can cover up if the fundamentals aren't there, you know? I'm just guessing. At any rate, let's jump into the retrospective that I spent an idiotic amount of time trying to put together today. Excuse me. What this is, I wanted to take a look at superhero costumes in live action over the years and just kind of look at which ones were pretty comic accurate, so to speak. And I know Spider's a pulp guy, but we're going to throw a couple of those in. Which ones kind of got it right, comic accurate wise, which ones didn't. And then maybe also look and see is there sort of an era of these things that did better than other eras? And some of this also is just to look at, fun superhero pictures and maybe even laugh about a few kind of bad costumes over the years. So that's the idea. This is going to be kind of part one, which is sort of the black and white era, from going, for our purposes, from about 1938 to about 1951. Then the next chunk will be sort of the earlier color period, like starting with the colored episodes, the color episodes of, I know it's the wrong word to use, the color episodes of The Adventures of Superman, and Batman and Wonder Woman and some movies from that period too. And then we'll maybe do one kind of looking at the, we might even take that one all the way into the 80s a bit. I'm trying to think. Was the Captain America TV movies, were those the 80s? They might have been super early 80s. But then we'll look at the kind of Batman 89 and that era that came after him, where you got a bunch of this stuff. And then maybe we'll look at like the 2000s too. So at any rate, we're going to start with the Spider from the movie The Spider's Web, 1938. I believe it's a serial. I've not seen the serial. And I've really not read any Spider, which is okay because I'm not going to give you a big, insight into the character or if they portrayed the character right. But we're looking at the costume of the Spider. And this is what he looked like in the film. He's got this sort of hooded cloak thing with the spider web pattern. He's got a couple revolvers. He's got the fedora going. Now, what did the Spider look like at the time on the pulp magazine covers? Well, this is what he looked like. And you can see this is a case where they made quite a few changes. There's no spiderweb pattern. It's just like a mask, domino type mask. It's not like a full hood on the head. Oh yeah, we got the firearms. Although now I'm actually looking, those are not revolvers, so they kind of got the firearms wrong as well. This would be a case. I'm going to rate these things from 1 to 5 stars. 5 means they basically got it perfect. Oh, and there could be a couple tiny things, but basically perfect. 4 is going to be, they had to make a pretty decent change, but it's because of the kind of technology of the time. They just couldn't get it better than the way they did it. They did it the best they could. They clearly showed they're trying to get it right, but there's limitations, budget, technology, etc. A 3 is going to be, they got the costume wrong in a couple ways. And it was clearly an artistic choice. They could have done it right. They chose not to do it right. A 2 is going to be like they made a lot of changes to it. And a 1 is going to be, this doesn't even look like the costume at all. And I can think right off the top of my head of a TV movie from the 70s that would get a 1 for costume design. So now I look at this one, look at this versus this, and I'm thinking this would be a 3-star sort of costume. They made some artistic choices to change it that they didn't have to make. And truth be told, it would have been easier for them not to do that, not to have to apply the spiderweb thing. So a little creativity, trying to make something cool. And I do think that it does look kind of cool, but it's not accurate to the character. And so we're going to have to give them 3 stars on that one. Here is a mildly colorized image, which doesn't mean much when you got a guy mostly wearing black, but there you have it. So 3 stars for the Spider's Web, 1938. in 1940, we got the first Green Hornet serial, Universal Pictures, directed by Ford Beebe and Ray Taylor, starring Gordon Jones and the great Key Luke as Kato. Now, this is a series based on a radio character, all right, which means you got a little bit of latitude, but they did have a Green Hornet comic book out at the time, so people had an idea of what the Green Hornet was supposed to look like. So how do we do? How does this look like the comic book? It's actually pretty darn close. Obviously, we're looking at black and white versus color, so you have to make some assumptions there. And we're going to play with that a little bit in this series, at least for the black and white segment. But, you know, you got the gloves are yellow. I don't believe. Yeah, they did. So they have the light colored gloves there. We got the green suit. We got the hat, etc. We got the sort of face mask with the Hornet symbol on it. Pretty darn good. Kato is wearing the chauffeur's outfit in black, which is exactly what he should be wearing. There could be a couple little differences in the chauffeur outfit. That's not something we're going to really ding him on. So I would say more or less, I got to say this is a 5-star. It looks really, really, really close to what was on the comic book covers at the time. So good on them. And there's a little mildly colorized version of what it might have looked like if this was a color film from back in 1940. Now, apparently, there were production contracts on this one that gave the creator, George W. Trindle, the right to approve Kato's driving uniform, the gas gun, and the Black Beauty car design, maybe some other stuff too. So you had the involvement of the creator who could say yes or no on things, and that really does make a difference a lot of times. They also have the advantage with this one, with the Spider, and with the next one we're going to look at. It's not like a superhero costume per se. It's street clothes worn a certain way. A hat, you got a mask. A little bit easier to do. You don't have to invent it. You just go shopping for one of these things. Hold on a sec here. All right, am I unmuted? Somebody tell me if I'm unmuted now. Because this thing works weird. Sometimes I think I'm okay and I'm not. I'm going to wait to see if Lady Wendelin says something. Oh. No, I wasn't muted. I hit the wrong damn thing. So everybody got to hear me cough. I missed my cough button. Oh, it's been that kind of a day. It has been that kind of a day. All right, so pretty good. And there would be a sequel to this one in 1941. The Green Hornet strikes again. Same costume, same cast. So we don't need to look at that one in particular. Next up from 1940, The Shadow. In The Shadow. This one is directed by James W. Horn, starring Victor Jory. It's a Columbia serial. And this is a pretty simple costume when you get down to it with the Shadow. Again, not too different from the Spider. You got the kind of the cloak. You got the dark suit. You got a scarf around the face. You got the hat. Pretty simple stuff. And we can see there's another shot of the costume with a couple of the other people in the film. And there's a Shadow magazine from 1940. I'd say the only thing that might be missing is the red. But it's a black and white picture. So the red's not going to really do anything for you in the movie. So you understand why they might leave that out. Not as an artistic choice, but just like, it's going to cost extra. There's no really point to doing that. But other than that, I think it looks like they got the Shadow pretty dead on costume wise. And again, I think that's a better shot of it because you could see he's wearing sort of, I think they termed it more like judge's robes rather than the Dracula kind of cape. Good stuff. And there's some really cool stuff in that serial, by the way, of him crashing through a skylight coming down in a courtroom. Very reminiscent of Batman going through the skylight in the Tim Burton movie. And it's a shot that's been done many times. But I'm going to give him 4 stars because, again, you could kind of tell that's not a red scarf. I think the red scarf was mostly an invention of the covers of the pulp magazines, probably because a little red makes it pop, looks good. But, that's what people, in their minds, that's what the shadow looks like. They didn't 100% get it, but they got really close. I think it was, again, probably just like a budget thing. Getting red-lined cape, it's probably a little more expensive if they didn't have one already. So pretty good. 4 stars for the shadow. Not too bad. Now we're going to kick it into true superheroes for the most part at this point. And that's going to start with Captain Marvel in The Adventures of Captain Marvel, 1941. Republic Pictures. Republic kind of did the best B movies. Higher budgets. I think the Lydecker brothers, I think they just worked for Republic, so you got good special effects. This is a really good serial. I did a review of it some years back. It's definitely one worth watching. Some fun stuff in it. It was directed by William Whitney and John English, starring Tom Tyler as Captain Marvel. And I think Fawcett really kind of scored a coup here because they got their guy on live action before DC or National got Superman in live action. They could have. I've talked about this before. The mysterious Dr. Satan was supposed to be a Superman movie, and it fell through. They had to shift to a different character all of a sudden. So they could have had that out there. It didn't quite make it. Okay, now I'm going to hit the cough button properly. Gotta friggin' love allergies. Okay, so Captain Marvel, how does he look there in terms of the costume? It's form-fitting, like superheroes generally wear. We got the cape. It has the little doodads on it, what they call the frogs, little gold frogs on it. We got the bands. We got the lightning bolt on the chest. If we look at one of the images from back in the day, that's pretty much exact. That is pretty much exact what it should be. You got to give it a 5-star review, costume-wise and design. They stuck to pretty much exactly what he looked like at that time. Now, if you see later Captain Marvel, the sort of buttoned-up military thing is gone, and it's more like long johns like Superman wore. But at that time, that's what he looked like, and they did a fantastic job with it. Clearly, they paid attention. Now, this is what we would imagine it to look like in color, right? With that bright red and all this other stuff. But back in the day, black and white movies, you color things differently because they would look better in black and white film. In other words, you'd use the wrong color because the wrong color looks more like the right color in black and white than the right color does. Now, that was especially true with a blue-red combination. Blue and red do not look that far apart when they're filmed in black and white. So you'd use a different color. So what this costume actually looked like from what I read and letting Grok do some colorization for me, it probably actually looked like this was what he was wearing. They say it was sort of a lighter blue-gray sort of color, and the rest of it was the golds actually did look like that and the white cape. But that's probably what he actually looked like, but in our mind's eye, it's that. So I'm not going to ding anybody for having to do that. That's just working within the technology of the time. The reason they changed the color of the costume to film it is so it would look more accurate. So that shows the right mindset on it. So 5 stars, definitely, for Captain Marvel. Next up, we're going to look at another Fawcett character from 1942, Spy Smasher. Just did a review on this one not too long ago. It is a great serial, one of the great ones. Republic Pictures again, director William Whitney, starring Kane Richmond as Spy Smasher and also as somebody else. I won't spoil it in case you want to go watch it or even watch my review. Again, pretty darn accurate in terms of the costuming. You see there, black and white image of what it looked like. And then here it is on the cover. So you have the red cape, you have the green outfit, you got the belt there. Now the belt does have that emblem there, the V and the dash, dash, dash. That was the sign for V in Morse code, which you will, if you watch old movies and you hear the dun, 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 they're using the Beethoven because it sounds like the ... dash of Morse code for V for victory. The one thing you notice, though, on this costume, it looks like when the diamond logo, it's not black in the center with a different color on the outside than the green. Sometimes I've seen in the comics, it's a red color. Sometimes it looks like a yellow color. Sometimes the standards were a little loose on colorization of these things. That seems to be about the only thing they didn't do. I mean, here you see he's got the goggles and the leather, flying helmet, pretty much like he has there. If we colorize it, that would be like a somewhat accurate colorization of what it should look like. From what I understand. Oh, hey, Danny Roberts. How's it going, man? You've been going through it, dude. We were just talking about you yesterday. Wendy was saying, she goes, I gotta check in with Danny and find out what's going on. Yeah, I'm glad you're here, man. So this is what the actual costume and filming might have looked like. Again, it's based, and the little colorization thing added the black to the diamond. I'm just using a simple thing to try to mock up what these would look like. But again, you change the colors because they're going to look better in black and white. It's that kind of a thing. But clearly they were going for a pretty accurate look for Spy Smasher. I'd go 4 stars on that one. They did a nice job with it, and it is a fun serial. It's definitely worth watching. And now we move on to 1943, Batman and Robin in Batman, Columbia Pictures, directed by Rudolph C. Flothau, starring Lewis Wilson as Batman and Douglas Croft as Robin, and they did a pretty good job on this one. Now, there's a couple issues. One of them is the bat cowl, easy to draw, hard to make real, until they got the latex going, and like Tim Burton. It was difficult to actually make it look real. Also, Batman's cape seems to change color, sometimes from one shot in a scene to another shot in a scene. Clearly, they had a couple different capes that they were using, and it doesn't always look like it matches the color of the cowl. The Robin costume, they got really close. I don't think you could find anything wrong with it. Here is Batman and Robin in 1943. Now, back then, obviously, you had the gray, you had the blue for Batman, Robin with the red, green, and yellow. Pretty much what you see here, just not that far off. If we look at a colorized version of it, it looks a little bit like that. Again, this is based just on some research of, on fan sites, what these props look like. Some of these, prop costumes don't exist anymore, so you got to guess. But it sounds like the Robin thing was just about 100% correct. Batman, it looks like they used a darker black instead of the blue, but man, you can kind of interpret that a couple different ways when you get right down to it. And it looks like they got the utility belt right, although they don't really use the utility belt apparently in this serial. It's a decent serial. I've watched it. They're going up against the Japanese saboteurs, so it's wartime kind of stuff. But pretty good job. I would give that one, I'd give it 4 stars. The cowl's a little off, but it was, again, that's a technology thing. They just didn't have a way to make that work properly. And we'll see that on the next version of Batman as well. 1943 also had The Phantom. I've done a review of this one as well. It's a good serial. It's a really fun one. That is Tom Tyler as the Phantom. He's the guy who played Captain Marvel. He also played Karis in one of the Mummy movies. The second one, The Mummy's Hand. Apparently he was a clumsy guy. So, looked good as a hero, but maybe not as heroic in real life. This was a Columbia one, directed by B. Reeves Eason. It's a pretty simple costume, right? You got the bodysuit, you got the head covering, the mask, the belt, the striped trunks. He's got the firearm, the sidearm, which is pretty much what you see in the comic books at the time. Of course, it was really a comic strip more than a comic book. But they do a good job on this one, I think. And again, if we looked at it colorized, it'd probably look a little something like this. I think the color was pretty accurate in the real costume they filmed with as well. It may not have been quite as purple. It may have been a little more blue, but close enough. And on film, it's a 5-star costume for me. It's exactly what the Phantom is supposed to look like. And they picked the right guy for the part. Tall, kind of muscular. I mean, that's what you want in a superhero. So kudos to the Phantom. They did a good job with that one. Now, the next one, sadly, they didn't do quite as good a job on. And it's really sad because this is a Republic Pictures serial, Captain America. Some of the best fight scenes you will ever find in a serial. They are wild. They actually match almost the energy of a Jack Kirby Captain America comic from back in the day. I mean, people are jumping over desks. Chairs are being thrown right at people's faces. They are absolutely nuts. If you watch a Captain America, a couple episodes, and you're going to probably love them. The stunt guys did what they needed to do. And again, Republic was like top tier for serials. And serials were action movies at the time. As we think of action movies, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, those were serials, those were westerns at the time. That's what you got. The fist fights, the gun fights, people jumping off of things, people falling off of things. That's where that stuff was. And Republic did it probably better than anybody. The movie's directed by Elmer Clifton and John English, stars Dick Purcell, who sadly passed away not very long after he made this movie. He had some, I think some heart problems, and this was a tough movie to do. He did a lot of his own stunts, so it was hard on the body. But they made a lot of changes, and the reason is, from what I understand, this is another thing that was supposed to be a different character, got switched at the last minute. They bring in Timely / Marvel's Captain America for it, so it really wasn't built for the Captain America character. He's not Steve Rogers in this movie. He's a district attorney who fights crime, stateside. So they never bring up the war. Whatever you do, don't mention the war. They never bring up the war really in the thing. He's not fighting Nazi or Japanese saboteurs or anything like that. Just going up against garden variety criminals. But again, there's some really good stuff in it, but the costume has some issues. So here's a really good shot of it. You see, the boots are not right at all. The gloves are iffy. We don't have the shield. We don't have the wings on the helmet, and the trunks might be right. It's difficult to tell, but that's pretty much what it looks like if you got, blue and red together. But they didn't use blue and red on the costume, so they might not be right as well. We do have him using a gun, which is actually not too far off for Steve Rogers. He can pick up a gun if he needs to because he's a super soldier. And here we see what Steve looked like in a comic book from 1943, USA. He is leaping over spinning blades. There are some caricatures of people in the background. But, they bombed Pearl Harbor, so people get caricatured a little bit when they do that. That's how it goes. They caricatured Americans, too. Don't worry about it. But anyways, that's what he looked like. Now, if we were to look at what the real colors were on the costume, from what I've read, this is what the actual shooting costume looked like. Not very Captain America-y. If we had the, colors as they properly are, it should look something like this. And then I went ahead and said, hey, could you add the shield for me? And there, if he had his shield, wouldn't that have looked a lot better? But unfortunately, that'd be a lot more money. And Republic spent a little bit more, but they weren't going to spend money they didn't need to. And what do you do with the shield? It's going to be difficult to use the shield in the fighting, with the other stuntmen. He certainly is not going to be throwing the shield all over the place. That's not going to work. Kind of makes sense that they went ahead and got rid of the shield to do the character, but unfortunately it does hurt it. Manowar says that didn't look like an Austrian painter he was seeing. Not in, not in that one. That was the other side. He was socking in the jaw for that one. But overall, it's a 2-star costume, but it's probably like a 4 out of 5 movie serial. It's a fun one. There's a lot of great death traps in it. It's very comic book, just not very accurate in terms of what he was wearing. I think, if you had those colors and you had that shield there, that looks pretty good. I did try to get the software to put, or the program to put the wings on his head, and it did some weird stuff. He got wings on his back and wings on his head, and I'm like, I don't have time to try to make this look right, so I just forewent the wings. Let's look now at Superman. In Superman from 1948, Columbia Pictures, directed by Spencer Gordon Bennett and Thomas Carr. So the first superhero finally makes it into live action in 1948, 8 years after his rival, Captain Marvel, did. This one stars Superman as himself. So that's actually Superman, according to the credits. Might have actually been an actor named Kirk Allen. There's a rumor. But that's the way they actually promoted it for fun. They promoted it as, we couldn't find an actor who looked enough like Superman, so we just had to have Superman star in the movie himself. That's pretty fun for the kids. These are well known for using the animation, for him flying. If I'm honest, the flying they did in the Captain Marvel serial was better. But again, that's Republic, and that's the Lydecker brothers, and this is Columbia. So the animation's kind of fun, but it's very obvious that it's all of a sudden he's animated and not live action. They were kind of doing their version of CGI, but it didn't blend very well back then. The costume is just pretty awesome when you get right down to it. You got the S logo looks right. You got the cape, you got the trunks, etc., the belt. Everything's there that's supposed to be there. Here's what Superman looked like on a cover of a magazine from 1948. Here is what it actually looked like, the shooting version, to the best of my ability. It was apparently a sort of a light brown tan for the bodysuit, and a darker, I think it was a gray for the bodysuit, brown for the cape, for the trunks, for the S on the logo, and white on the inside instead of yellow. But I think the belt was actually a yellow belt that they used. And if we colorized it properly, and I think you look at that and you go, dude, that's Superman. So I would give that one a 5-star review. I mean, it's accurate. And you got to think, Superman is at that time the biggest hero. He's rivaled by Captain Marvel. He's rivaled by Batman. But I mean, this is like the big three of comic book superheroes. So National Comics probably was able to say, oh, no, the costume has to look exact. We want to sell comic books. We want to sell toys. We want to sell shirts. He needs to look exact. You can't play with the costume. So they didn't. And they essentially used the same costume when they make 1950s Atom Man versus Superman, which was directed also by Spencer Gordon Bennett and also starred Kirk Allen. And I think he got credited for that one rather than just as himself. So really good job on Superman when he finally showed up. That's a very accurate costume. You notice it looks like wool, which is what the costumes were supposed to be made of back in the day, because that's what, the stuff was that acrobats wore. You didn't really have like the Lycra spandex stuff yet in existence. So the texture always should look like wool back in the day. Followed up the next year for National Comics is the second Batman serial, Batman and Robin. Again, I think some elements of the costume from the 43 serial were reused here. It's pretty close. The cowl is different. I think looks kind of better in a lot of shots, but it apparently rode up a little bit. So you'll see Batman like this a lot of times because that's how he could see out the eye slits. They weren't quite big enough. What they hadn't figured out that they used for Adam West, and of course we'll look at this in the next installment when I do it, you have the rigid part of the mask that fits into the cowl. And because that part's rigid, it's a little easier for him to see out of and move around in, although I'm sure it wasn't like super easy. So that's a little bit off. But, you got the cape, you got the utility belt. Now, he does use the utility belt in this one, but you do notice there's none of those little attachments to it that you see in the comic books. And they didn't do that on the other one either. But at least he uses it. I guess he just tucks things into it because he pulls out an acetylene torch at one point. I just did a review of this serial, too, not too long ago. The Robin costume, pretty good, but you will notice it's a dark cape, which later on is what Robin's going to look like by the time you get to the 90s, where they get rid of the yellow. But at this point in time, this is Batman and Robin, same basic kind of colors that we saw last time in the other issue, the yellow cape, etc. They did a pretty good job. This is what it could look like in the real versions that they filmed with. Apparently, the cowl and cape that they used were like a maroon brown, some of them say, because it filmed better. So they did use actual indigo cape in the 43 version. They used the maroon brown for this one. And of course, this is what it would look like if you kind of made it a little more comic book accurate color-wise. But overall, the structure's there. Everything's where it really should be, but they changed the cape, which they didn't have to do, and didn't do in the other one. And the cowl is still not quite right. I'm giving this one a 3-star rating because the cape change was sort of an artistic choice. I think they just thought it looked better. So you got to dock them for that one. But costume looks pretty good, though, other than that. So 3 stars for Batman and Robin, and we only have one more here to go. And that is Superman in Superman and the Mole Men from 1951. Now, this is kind of a pilot episode for the Superman TV series, which starts out black and white and then moves to color. This movie is black and white. So I decided to go ahead and use George Reeves' first appearance in this one. Now, as I understand it, I think this might even be the same costume that Kirk Alyn wore. He was offered this role and the role in the TV series, and he turned it down. He did not want to end up getting typecast for this one. And it just occurred to me why, and now it just occurred to me I did leave somebody out. Darn it. Blackhawk. He ends up playing Blackhawk later. He didn't turn down Superman for Blackhawk, but he turned out Superman. He didn't want to be typecast as a hero. Then he ends up making Blackhawk. I don't have any Blackhawk pictures, but I will say this. The Blackhawk costumes, and by the way, I'll be showing this off in a minute, but there's Blackhawk in Military Comics. The Blackhawk costumes they did, extremely accurate. They'd be 5-star rating for sure. I'll have to add this. Maybe I'll look at that one as an addition for the next installment because I forgot it. Darn it. But overall, it's basically the same costume that we got before. Here we see Superman working on building his harem of Earth women, as Jor-El instructed him to do. No, don't ask me. But there he is working a kissing booth because in 1951, those are kind of the hard-hitting stories that we got. Yeah, stand up straight, Boy Wonder. Yeah. So anyways, God, pardon me. That's crazy. All of a sudden, this just hit me. Wasn't bothering me earlier. It's because it's been one of those days. So anyways, that's what he would look like. This gives you an idea of what the costume would look like in, full color. But again, I think it was the same costume Kirk Alyn wore. So 5 stars, but I mean, it's kind of fun or weird to rate the same costume, a couple different times. And there we have it, folks. That's kind of your black and white era superheroes, not including Blackhawk, which it should have included. But there you go. Overall, the average rating they got for this era is 4.1 stars out of 5, which is pretty darn good. They kept most of these things very accurate. They're sometimes limited by budget and technology. They had to make changes to the real colors to make them look better on screen. But other than that, really the only big failure in this, I would say, is Captain America. But a lot of the elements are there. The A on the forehead, the stripes, the star, it's mostly there, but they left out a few things. And I think, again, part of that is because they planned to make a different movie. And then at the last moment, they had to change what it was. So they were probably scrambling to get things made and get things prepared. But that's the first installment of the retrospective. We'll see next time the early color era of superheroes on live action. We'll look at the adventures of Superman. We'll look at Linda Carter Wonder Woman. Maybe I'll do about 20 or 30 slides of that just so I can pump up my audience numbers. We'll, of course, look at Adam West's Batman. We'll look at the 78 Superman movie, stuff like that. from that era. Again, the focus is going to be on characters that were being adapted from the comics, not like an original character like Condor Man or something like that. We can't check the accuracy on something that was created for a movie. But we'll do that next time. So 4.1 out of 5 stars for the black and white era. Pretty good. They kept their hero movies pretty darn accurate at that time. Let's look at some new pickups in the den really quickly. Danny says he needs all the Linder. Yeah, I know. But unfortunately, my wife's out there, and so I get in trouble. We'll see just a little bit of Linda Carter so that I don't, end up in divorce court. So pickups. This is actually not new. This is an older facsimile of an old comic book. The reason I grabbed it is I am putting together a video that's going to look at the superheroines of the Golden Age, specifically, kind of a timeline retrospective of them, because there's a lot more of them than people realize, and one of them is Miss America. This is her costume early on. It changes later on. It changes more when she is done in FemForce and AC Comics. I could probably get a pretty good audience share just showing off covers from FemForce from back in the day. But when I was researching her, I realized that her first appearance was in Military Comics #1. And I'm like, oh, I never picked that one up. It's still at the comic shop. I've seen it on the shelves. Yeah, maybe I'll grab that. So I grabbed that one, Military Comics. This is also the introduction of Black Hawk, the Polish aviator freedom fighter, teaming up to defeat the Ratsies. Let's see if we got a really good image in there. We got also Loops and Banks. There was, I think, a couple duos in here that had names like that. We got Archie Atkins, Desert Scout. So there was definitely sort of a military flavor to most of this. I really like this image. Really well done. Yankee Eagle, but that's a good-looking battleship. I'm not sure who the artists are on some of these, because they didn't credit them back in the old days, and I don't have it in front of me. And then I think, yeah. Oh, that's a rad opening, dude. If nothing else. Death Patrol. I don't know that I would want to sign up for a group called Death Patrol, though. That's what the heck? All right, this is like a comedy strip. But check out the little short dude yelling at the recruits. Sabotage by Tex. Yeah, Blaisdell. Interesting. They did put comedy in these things back in the day. Of course, you also get the Tex story. I think that had something to do maybe with the postage rates. And then we get Q-Boat. The Q-Boat. Soon we'll be taking another run. And there you go. That's Military Comics #1. So I grabbed that so I could read the Miss America story. The new Silver Surfer facsimile came out as well. These are somewhat thicker. They got a spine to them. And, look at that. On sale now. Avengers King Size Special. Oh, I wish. Actually, that could be a facsimile. It's out there now, too. Look at that. When lands the saucer. Now, a lot of people prefer Kirby's version of the character to Lee's. I don't disagree with them, but you get some great Buscema art in these. So I ain't gonna get mad at him. Look at this stuff. He's just, I think about John Buscema a lot in terms of Conan. His Conan stuff is just exemplary. And one of the weird things, too, there's certain artists you think about in terms of drawing women, kind of good girl art. Dave Stevens comes to mind. There's a few. John Buscema was really good at drawing beautiful women. I think he's also so good at drawing just the more heroic action stuff that you kind of forget. It's not the focus of what he does, but, you read the old Conan stuff, but, pretty much everywhere. He just did amazing stuff. Always in for one of his books. I picked up the second issue of Tigress Island. Don't know how far this one's going to go. We'll see, but the first one was pretty good. And then I got a couple back issues. I got this one at the comic shop, an Archie's Madhouse Annual. The Madhouse ones were the ones with all the weird, like, kind of what if stories that they did. There's not really an Archie continuity, so to speak, but this was way outside of continuity. So I grabbed one of those. It was pretty cheap. And these I ordered, and there was a reason for it. A couple issues of Adventure Comics, which starred Supergirl at the time. But that's not what I bought them for. It's 418 and 419? Yeah, 418 and 419. The reason I grabbed these is Alex Toth has a backup story starring the Black Canary that's some of the best comic art you will ever see in your life. Toth was a master at this stuff. And so I just happened upon some of that stuff online. And it mentioned it's an Adventure Comics, it's 418, 419. And I'm like going, I wonder what those cost. Are they expensive? Went to my comic shop. They weren't too bad. I mean, these are like not, these are not mint condition by any means. But they were, about $5 each. And I'm like, I'm going to grab them. And then I think I'm going to do a video later today, but for next Friday, posting it just on that story. We're just going to do a quick, flip through and look at the art in that story that he did, because it's friggin' unbelievable. Let's look at a few new campaigns that are out there. There's not a ton, but McFarlane has a few figures up for pre-order next week on the 21st. They did some last week as well on tax day. So this is Garth Lees, the Green Lantern, or has he green there? Was he one of the other? I don't know. I think he was a Green Lantern at some point. I don't know my Garth Lees very well, but it exists and you can buy it, and that's the main point of that. But I do know Gangbuster. He was from the Superman comics. I won't ruin the surprise of who he actually is initially. Now this, it sounds like, is maybe only at GameStop. It is coming out on Tuesday. I might make a run on this one because I really dig the Gangbuster design from those 80s comics. I think it might have been after John Byrne was working on them, or maybe it was the one that he didn't primarily draw. But at any rate, I always thought Gangbuster was pretty cool, so I might try to get that one. But I think it's like the red platinum, so it's going to be really hard to get a hold of. And they also got Captain Marvel. I wouldn't mind that either. I think that'll be available like on Amazon, stuff like that, everywhere. But not a bad looking figure. I got the Superman ones, so I might want to do that one as well. Got to look at it though and make sure it's the real Captain Marvel. Shazam. But any rate, so those are coming out on the 21st. Last week, Wave 4 of the McFarlane's Super Friends line popped up. Now I checked and found that Judge Luthor is still available for pre-order at Amazon. These are all $23 a pop. Batman, Robin, and Black Manta appear to be available on the McFarlane Toy Store site, so you can get them there. Evil Aquaman, not so much. Seems weird that he sold out. Maybe they didn't make that many of them because they weren't sure. But the other ones, you still can get a hold of them, $23 a pop. I went ahead and grabbed Batman and Robin because they're sort of my old favorite characters, and they put them up again for sale. So I thought, what the heck, I'll do that. What do we see here? Oh, yes, I did tout that one, Man of War, a while back. It's up for pre-order now. I don't know if I talked about it again. I think I might have because I said I'm going to order this today, and then I didn't order it today. I still need to order that one. I've read the comics because he had them like on his website. They weren't colored. They were just, I don't even think they were inked. They might have been inked, but they might have just been pencils. They're pretty damn good. But yeah, it's basically, it's Byrne X-Men from the 1980s. He just did them on his own because he wanted to do them. They weren't done with Marvel. They weren't, something he could legally sell. They made a deal. Now it's going to be out there in a book. I'll maybe tout it again next week, but it's his art and it looks beautiful. And it was a pretty darn good story, if I remember correctly. Danny says, where do you shop for these older titles or general comic books nowadays? I got the comic book shop nearby, and they got a pretty good back issue selection. So I'll grab stuff there. But the one that I typically go to is mycomicshop.com. Huge selection. Prices are always look fair to me. They do a good job getting stuff to me. Now, they're in Texas. Shipping over to, the Netherlands might be a little bit tricky, expensive. I don't know, but the shipping's okay for me. What I will typically do is, if there's stuff that I've been looking for to fill out a collection, can't find it, I'll sort of wait till there's a few things that I want, and then I'll grab them all together, and it'll be like, maybe $20 or $30 worth of comic books, and the shipping will be like $8 or something, or 10, rather than just buying a couple. In this case, I just bought a couple because I just wanted those in particular, and I wanted to do a video on them. But mycomicshop.com. Check them out, dude. They got tons. And they actually have a dollar bin that you can go through. It's mostly modern stuff that I'm not interested in, but they got a dollar bin. They do sales. They do auctions on the site. So good site. I've had good luck with them. I've ordered several times from them with no issues whatsoever. So McFarlane Super Friends are out there now. You can find a few of them still, but maybe not Evil Aquaman. This is InArt has this. It's from Queen Studios. Superman 78 figure. Up for pre-order. It is a 12-inch figure. I think it went up 2 days ago. It's not available, but keep your eyes open. Sometimes you'll find them anyways, or they'll become available again. $70 for the figure, which is, not bad. It looks pretty good. It has a good likeness of Christopher Reeve, but, more than I would spend for an action figure, but dolls for men. But at any rate, Manowar says Midtown Comics would be a decently priced resource for missing older and current issues. Not sure on international shipping. So Midtown Comics would be maybe another one. Maybe I'll look at that too. Do a little comparison shopping the next time I'm grabbing stuff. I don't have anything right now that I need in particular. I needed The Thing #1 for that to complete that series. Just couldn't find it locally. I needed Dazzler 33, which I ended up getting on eBay, because that's the only place I could find it at a better price. It's the one with the Thriller cover. So apparently that's one that people like. There was something else where I needed one issue to complete a run. So I'm tired of looking for it. I'll just do it here. But other than that, I usually just go, and look at the local comic shop and see what I can find. Because I go cheap. Yeah, these aren't in bad shape. I mean, if you get a real up close on it, I haven't even taken them out of the plastic just yet. I only got them a couple days ago. Man, it has old comic book smell like a son of a gun, though. I'll tell you that. Look at that. Any 14 of these records for what, $295? $286. But yeah, if you get a close up, you can see, it's a little bit ragged on the cover. It's not in perfect shape by any means. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. You can kind of see. I'm trying to think who did the art for the covers on these. There's some of the best covers. Supergirl as a character got some of the best artists ever working on her. They did incredible stuff with that character. Art-wise. Story-wise, they're all over the place, but can't fault the art. I think because they knew that it's what's going to sell the comic books to boys. So the last thing up, I'm going to show here, new campaigns wise. And again, these are already available. And I want to say I found all of them. They're all still available. You can get them at Amazon, elsewhere. $30 figures. These are the 6-inch figures. They went up on tax day. I didn't end up getting any of them. You got the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, which I don't care about. You got Lady Deadpool, which I don't care about. Dark Avengers Hawkeye, which I never read any of that stuff. You have Psylocke in her armor, which I kind of like. And if it had been the Psylocke before she becomes the ninja assassin, I love that design because it's just, I think it was like an Alan Davis design, but it wasn't that, so I didn't buy it. Ultimate Wolverine, U.S. agent in a costume I never saw. I think it's one of his later costumes. And the one other one I thought about getting was Marina from Alpha Flight. Big Alpha Flight fan. That's why I did the whole, well, not the whole series, but a 52-week retrospective on it a couple years ago. But when I looked at the figure, I wasn't real impressed with the sculpt. I just didn't think it was that good face-wise. It seems like all the stuff they base off of John Byrne characters, they can't get his style right in like 3D. They never look quite as good. The She-Hulk that they did it's not bad, but it's not John Byrne's She-Hulk, even though it should be, because it's the Fantastic Four version. But so I'm like, for $30, I'm like, it's not a major character. It's not a major character I love. It's Alpha Flight. I'm not going to get it. If it looked better, I might have done it. Now, this is a Build-A-Figure set, though. So each one of these comes with a part of a bigger figure you can put together. And that bigger figure is Box from Alpha Flight, the armored dude. Not the version that came later with Madison Jeffries that looked a little more like anime. This is the earlier version of Box, which I really dig. But again, I'm not going to pay $210 to get that figure in a million years. Maybe one will fall into my lap someday, but other than that, I ain't getting them. But those are still available. You'll find the Hasbro stuff. It's not super limited. You can usually find them. They might sell out once in a while, but usually you can get a hold of them. So those, if you're interested in any of those figures, they're more modern, most of them. You can check them out at Hasbro Pulse or on Amazon. No problem. Oh, there we go. Good call. Just looked it up. That's an Ollie sculpt. Yeah. Yeah. The thing about Marina, she's like this, mer person in a way. I mean, she has legs, but lives underwater. She ends up becoming the Submariner's girlfriend for a while. Very sad tale. All the Alpha Flight characters had very tragic stories. It's kind of a bummer. You like the characters and you just watch them getting taken apart and destroyed over the course of the issues of the comic book. But the one thing about Marina was she had an interesting sort of alien face, like larger eyes that were, I think, black, just full black, but it was still a pretty face. It was a John Byrne, he's good at drawing women. And that's what I kind of wanted. And it didn't work for me. The sculpt just didn't work for me. So yeah, it might end up in Ollie's. We'll see. So that's really it in terms of the new campaigns that I found. I didn't see a whole lot this week. So we got one more thing that we're going to look at here that arrived yesterday. It's a box. But what's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box are the new Super 7 Micronaut figures, the Time Travelers. And by the way, I have literally not taken these out of this box yet and looked at them at all. Yeah, so they got the translucent plastic, the metallic plastic for the heads and stuff. Now, these are a little bit larger scale-wise than the vintage figures are, but I couldn't help but get them. And I hope they do some more. And we also got the Emperor. Now, if memory serves, not nymph like, yeah, it's just, Marina was very pretty, but with a different weird kind of alien beauty, but it really translated. So the Emperor, I believe, was a Micronauts character that was only produced in Italy. And I think it used some, it reused portions of, I think, Force Commander, used the gold medal, though. Or Baron Kaza, I think it uses some of his stuff, or Karza. But I think it was only available in Italy. There were a lot of toy lines that didn't do like super well in America, or they ended at a certain point in America, that were still very active in Europe and in Italy. And Brazil also is known for doing some really cool, crazy action figures that kind of go with American lines. I think they did some G.I. Joe stuff that is really highly sought after by collectors because it's so interesting. But Italy's one of those as well. So I think the Emperor was just an Italian thing. So we have to assume that he has, hey, Force Commander, what are you doing over there? So there you go, folks. The new Micronauts finally arrived. I got to be honest with you, the Super 7 stuff is not cheap these days. It is not cheap these days. And I hesitated on these a little bit, but I'm like, ugh, I've got all of them so far. Exclusive gig toys in Italy. See, the chat is what you need. You just have to pretend to be an expert on stuff, and then you can have the chat fill in all the blanks for you and just kind of go, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's But no, I look, I learned this stuff watching Brian Heiler on Plaid Stallion. So, I mean, that's where my knowledge came from in the first place on a lot of Micronauts stuff. But I had all the other Micronauts, and some of them I really love. The little, oh, is he, no, he's not that close. Yeah, he's close enough. Hold on. Let me grab him off the shelf. Please don't let me knock anything over. Dude, this little dude was like one of my favorite figures from last year. It's just got that retro sort of look to it. I just thought it was so, I don't know what it is. I love this little thing. And now he's back on my desk. So he's probably going to hang out here for a while with Ultraman and Captain America. But I've got all the other figures from the Micronauts line from Super 7. So the price was a little bit higher than I really liked because they've, well, it's because of all the stuff with sanctions and everything else, and plastic is expensive, blah, blah, blah. It has raised the prices on some of this stuff. So I understand. I'm not necessarily angry at Super 7, but, you put all three of those in your basket and you're like, am I sure about this? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, Microtron, that's his name. But yeah, I think I'm sure about this one. Get it as close in as we can. So I might pop these out and do a review video on them. We'll see. Maybe for not this week, but maybe for next week. I might plug that in. But I think they look pretty darn good. I've been pretty happy with their line. They're good figures. They really harken back to the originals. And again, I don't think they have license to do the more comic book oriented characters. I don't know how it works. I don't know who owns what. There are some of the comic characters I would love to see done, like in a Super 7 Micronauts line, that weren't necessarily the figures that, were the toys, but we will see. We'll see. Manowar says, the only issue I have with Super 7s, they don't give a break on sets. You're right. And that was exactly it. I grab all three of them and it's like, hey, can't give me $5 on this, off on this thing? This a fiver? That'd make me feel better about what I'm doing. So they don't, yeah. Oh, Lady Wendolyn, did my comment get hidden too because I used the word as well? Oh, wait, what word got... Oh, man, we're using saucy language with nymph. I had to approve. Now, that's funny because nymph is just a mythological creature. Nympho, short for nymphomaniac, I probably just got myself in trouble. I could see why they might want to, limit that or something, but nymph is... I mean, I know that gets used as a shortened form sometimes too. But damn it, nymphomaniacs need love too. We've got to stop being so judgmental of our nation's nymphomaniacs, and we need to embrace them and make them understand that they're a beloved part of our community. I know that might be controversial, but let's do things right. Anyhow, I think that is going to do it for today. Oh, you want to hear potty mouth, boy? Yeah, when bugs get in the house. The words fly, my friend. The words fly. Yeah, I bet that's why. Yeah, that must be why they're going after that word. But I think that does it for today. I'm running on so little sleep lately. I might have actually dreamed this entire live stream. Tomorrow I'll look and see if it's actually up and exists. I have no idea. Thankfully, I don't think I said anything too untoward during this video. Coming up this week in Dad's Den, Monday, Thor number 351, in our Walt Simonson, Thor review series, assuming I make that video today. Wednesday, I'm doing Spider-Man Year 1. So we're going to be looking at sort of the first year of Spider-Man. In fact, we're going to be looking at the first year of Amazing Spider-Man. Because when he showed up in Amazing Fantasy, it was a 6-month gap before Amazing Spider-Man number 1 showed up. So if I'm sticking to 12 months, I lose a lot of stories. So it's going to be the first year of the Amazing Spider-Man. You should check it out. If you've never read those comic books, they lay the foundation for the character in a wonderful way. You get a lot of great supervillains. I had a fun time making that video yesterday. So that's on Wednesday. And then, like I said, on Friday, we're going to do a little retrospective of Alex Toth's Black Canary, talking about, Linda Carter and stuff. If you're a red-blooded American male, you won't want to miss this, because Alex Toth, he had a way with drawing women as well. But it's also a very cool story. I wanted to show that off. So we're going to do that on Friday's video. That will do it, folks. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast, Lady Wendelin, of course, and my buddy Danny over in Holland. Hope things are going well over there. I know you've been going through it, man. We've been thinking about you and praying for you and looking forward to an update. But God bless you, dude. And God bless everybody. And everybody, please be kind to one another. Oh, yeah, throw a thumbs up on this thing if you feel like it. You might want to subscribe to the channel with all sorts of weird pop culture stuff. What's the other? Oh, share with a friend if you think they might enjoy some of this stuff. That would be very cool. But God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Read some comics, watch some TV, some movies, stuff that's fun. Watch some comfort, viewing today. Just put yourself in a good frame of mind, because tomorrow's Monday and you got to go to work and it's going to suck. All right. But I will see you next time in Dad's Den of Pop Culture, man. Bye-bye.